The city lights shimmered through the towering glass windows of an upscale restaurant in downtown Texas. Inside, billionaire businessman James Thompson sat at the head of a long mahogany table, surrounded by powerful executives and industry leaders. The evening was filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft hum of polite conversation. But amidst the luxury and elegance, an unseen danger lurked, one that no one in the room had anticipated. By James's side sat his loyal German shepherd, Max. Unlike the guests, Max wasn't distracted by business deals or pleasantries. His sharp eyes scanned the room, his ears twitching at every movement. Something wasn't right. He could feel it. The air carried an unfamiliar scent, a subtle tension that made his fur bristle. As the dinner progressed, a young waiter moved around the table, refilling glasses with practiced ease. But there was something different about him. His movements were just a little too calculated, his glances too frequent. Max growled softly, his body tense. James, caught up in conversation, absently patted the dog's head, unaware of the storm brewing around him. Then, the moment came. The waiter reached for James's glass, his hand steady as he poured the deep red wine. Max's instincts kicked in, pure, primal, undeniable. In a split second he lunged forward, breaking free from his leash. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the restaurant as Max knocked the drink to the floor. A gasp swept through the room. The waiter froze. His eyes darted around wildly before he dropped his tray and bolted for the door. Silence. James pushed back his chair, his heart pounding. "What the hell just happened?" he muttered, looking down at the spilled wine. Max stood beside him, barking furiously, his body positioned protectively in front of his owner. The energy in the room shifted, laughter and chatter replaced by unease. Something wasn't adding up. Why had the waiter run? And why had Max, the most well-trained and obedient dog, reacted so violently? James's mind raced, pieces of a puzzle falling into place. He could feel it now. That creeping sensation that this night was far from ordinary. A dark suspicion settled in his chest. He needed answers. And he had a feeling that Max had just saved his life. The restaurant buzzed with murmurs as James stood frozen, his mind racing. His heart pounded in his chest, a cold realization creeping over him. Max had never reacted this way before. Never without reason. His loyal companion, always calm and watchful, had sensed something James had missed. But what? He crouched down, running his fingers through Max's fur, trying to steady himself. The dog was still on high alert, his ears perked, eyes locked on the doorway where the waiter had disappeared. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. James turned to the guests at his table, but their faces reflected only confusion. "I need to know who that waiter was," James said, his voice firm. One of his business associates gestured toward the restaurant manager, who was already flipping through a staff roster. "That's strange," the manager muttered, his brows furrowing. "We don't have anyone by that name on our team tonight." James's stomach twisted. A hired hand. Someone who wasn't supposed to be there. His gaze flickered to the shattered wine glass on the floor. A chilling thought gripping him. If Max hadn't intervened, he would have taken a sip, never knowing what had been hidden in the deep red liquid. His fingers tightened into a fist. He had built an empire, outmaneuvered ruthless competitors, and secured a legacy for his children, but none of that mattered if he wasn't alive to protect it. Someone wanted him gone. The thought sent a cold shiver down his spine. That night, James made a call to Agent Thompson, a trusted investigator he had worked with in the past. Within hours, the agent was at his estate, sitting across from James, in his dimly lit study. Max sat by the door, still restless, his eyes never leaving his owner. "This wasn't random," James said, pouring himself a drink. But this time, only from a bottle he had opened himself. "Whoever did this planned it carefully." Agent Thompson nodded, his expression unreadable. "And it looks like they didn't work alone. My sources found security footage from the restaurant. Your waiter was seen speaking with a woman, just before the dinner started." He slid a grainy image across the desk. James picked it up, his breath catching in his throat. He knew that woman. Victoria, his wife. His mind reeled. They had been married for 2 years. She had come into his life after Elizabeth's passing, promising love, stability, and care for his children. But beneath her warm smile and kind words, was she hiding something more? Betrayal burned through him. He had trusted her, let her into his home, his life. And now, it seemed she had been plotting his downfall all along. James's jaw clenched. He wasn't just a businessman. He was a survivor, and he wasn't going to sit back and let someone try to take everything from him. Max let out a low growl, as if sensing his owner's resolve. James exhaled slowly, his mind already forming a plan. He wasn't just going to confront Victoria. He was going to make sure she never saw this coming. James sat in his study long after Agent Thompson left, staring at the photo of Victoria. His hands clenched into fists as the reality sank in. The woman he had trusted, the one who promised to stand by his side, had been plotting against him. But why? Was it the wealth, the power? Or had their entire marriage been a carefully planned deception from the start? He needed proof, undeniable evidence that would expose Victoria's true intentions. And he needed it fast. The next morning, James played along, pretending nothing had changed. He greeted Victoria as usual, kissed her on the cheek, and even accepted the coffee she offered. But this time, before taking a sip, he smiled and slid the cup toward her. "Drink with me," he said, his voice calm but firm. Victoria hesitated. Her fingers trembled as she pushed the cup away. "I'm not in the mood for coffee," she said with a forced smile. James felt his heart hammering. That was all he needed. His suspicions were right. Before she could react, the door burst open. Agent Thompson and the police stepped in. Victoria's face drained of color as officers approached her. She stood frozen for a moment before bolting for the back door, but Max, ever watchful, was faster. He leaped in front of her, blocking her. Escape with a low, warning growl. The officers grabbed her, placing her in handcuffs as she struggled. "James! This isn't what you think," she cried, her voice laced with desperation. James stood still, his expression unreadable. "I trusted you," he said quietly. "You had everything. This family, this home. But it wasn't enough. Was it?" Victoria's silence was all the answer he needed. The officers led her away, and just like that, she was gone from his life. As the door closed behind them, James let out a slow breath. It was over. The woman who had once shared his life had tried to take it, but thanks to Max, her plan had failed. He turned to his loyal companion, kneeling beside him. "You saved me, buddy," he whispered, running a hand through Max's thick fur. "I owe you everything." Max licked James's face, his tail wagging gently as if to say, "I was just doing my job." In the weeks that followed, life slowly returned to normal. James strengthened security around his home and business, ensuring that nothing like this could happen again. He spent more time with his children, appreciating the moments he had once taken for granted. And through it all, Max remained by his side. One evening, as they walked through the park, James looked down at his faithful dog, thinking about everything they had been through. He had built a business empire, faced betrayals, and nearly lost everything. But in the end, the greatest wealth he had wasn't in his bank account. It was in the unwavering loyalty of his best friend. He smiled, giving Max a pat on the head. "Come on, boy," he said. "Let's go home." Max barked happily, and together they walked toward a future that for the first time in a long time felt truly secure.